Chargers. Touchdown, UCLA.
With USC great and NFL stud, Frosty Rucker.
The Trojans back in front.
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
All right, Los Angeles, what is up? Welcome into the LA Football Show here on the LA Football Network. Wow, Super Bowl champions reside here in Los Angeles. All week I was with these boys, and I gotta say, it's not as fun being virtual, but still good to see you, fellas. What's going on? Jamal, I'll start with you. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Doing well, Ryan. Excited to see you guys. Wish it was in person, but what a great week and what a great game.
Yeah, really was. Will, what's going on, my man? How we doing? Back safe and sound home, I hope.
Doing great, man. It's been fun to reflect on this week. I looked at the most views of the week on the videos, and the one that has the most views is our recap, where we're just talking, shooting the shit, having fun, man. So that was a joy to watch that one again. Fired it up right before I got in the plane, but hell of a time, guys. That was so much fun.
You know, it's funny. Been doing this a lot, and I feel like you can have phenomenal guests on, but sometimes if the hosts are just more wanting to be listened to, so I guess it's a good thing as the host. Ryan, what's up, man? How we doing, dude?
I'm doing great. It is a phenomenal feeling to have covered this team over the past couple of years, to see them get to this moment. It's just incredible to know these guys in my own certain way, and now to see them really celebrating and. Especially McVay, it's just fun to see him at the top.
Totally. Is that like a green screen behind you used for filming? Like professional.
It's gray.
It is gray. Photography? Is that what it's for?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. But
a lot of self-tapes that happen in this room.
There you go. Okay. Well, it's a good room to be in. So, Ryan, let's just keep it with you since you are the Rams beat writer here. I think this team was, the expectations were high ever since the Stafford trade. It was expected to be kind of a Super Bowl or bust team. I've said many times on my show, I think that was kind of an unfair expectation. For me, it was NFC Championship or bust. I thought if they made it to that, to me, they lived up to what their expectations were, and then anything farther was a cherry. But the nation set the expectations at the Super Bowl. So for you, Ryan, was that kind of what you thought it was? And then how did it feel? You kind of alluded to it a little bit in the intro, but just how did it feel for them to actually meet that and finish it off with an exclamation point?
Well, it's the with all that weight and expectation on the team, I think that it's kind of the only outcome that justifies all the moves that they made, and they made splash moves, and I think that it shows that the path that they have taken, Les Snead and Sean McVay over the years has paid off. Drafting guys in the second, third, fourth round, sixth round, that have become starters on this team. That's the real story to me. I mean, Von Miller on this team has been awesome. Odell Beckham they've been awesome contributors and really fun to watch. Mm-hmm. But those guys, as you like to call them, the lunch pail guys, the Jordan Fullers of the world, Ernest Jones coming in, making a huge difference in this game. Like that's what I've been really impressed with this particular team. They have those big stars, the guys that are going to go on to the Hollywood sign, let's say. But then there's all these other role players that have that they've grown grassroots style, and they're starters and difference makers.
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere that the Rams are like fourth in the league in homegrown talent. With obviously the narrative being going out and getting superstars, which they do. No first round picks, but like you mentioned, the Jordan Fullers, the Cooper Kupps, who was a mid round draft pick. A lot of guys on the offensive line. You have many other we could get into, but I think that's what gets lost in kind of what Les Snead and McVay and Tony Pastores have built with this team. So. Will, for you, what did you think about this game before we really dive into it? I know fan wise you have different outlook, but you are with the LA Football Network, so we appreciate your candidness and hiding that sometimes. But what'd you think? What'd you think of the game, and what'd you do for it?
Well, first off, this is the ultimate consolation prize as a 49ers fan, but I do work at the LA Football Network. This is great for the network. You're all about business. We got to get a good thing going on here with LA Football Network. So I'm very, very excited that this boosts up the LA Football Network as a whole. There was two things that really stood out to me in this game. First and foremost, how much crap that Les Snead was taking all year for going all in and making these very ambitious trades. Shipped out, the 2 firsts for Ramsey, who I'm sure we're going to get to on this podcast at some point. Shipping out a 2nd and a 3rd for Von Miller. The Matt Stafford trade, 2 firsts and a quarterback under contract in Jared Goff. A lot of people were going like, man, the Rams are playing on Madden mode right now. They're trading everything in their disposal to try to go and get it. Guess what? Who's laughing now? It's Les Snead. He got the team the championship. It was a big-time performance. And the second thing that really stood out to me, Cooper Kupp, I just want to clarify this. He is the best receiver in football today. But if you're asking me who should have won the MVP this game, it was Aaron Donald. It was a coronation of the most dominant player in the game today in Aaron Donald. 2 sacks. And, boy, the game came down to those last 2 plays on a 3rd and 4th and 1. Yeah. Aaron Donald blows it up, stifles Samaje Perine, and then gets in the backfield on 4th and 1 and threw Joe Burrow like a rag doll where Burrow just had to heave up a prayer to hopefully hit Perine on that play. Aaron Donald's the best player I've ever seen at the position. And for what we've known, it could be his last game, given those rumors and weird reports that he could be content retiring now that he has a Super Bowl. But, I mean, for those people that don't get to watch this guy day in and day out, according to CBS on the NFL, Aaron Donald has led the NFL in pressures in the last 5 seasons with 461. The next closest guy is Cam Jordan at 337. Like, it is so disgusting what Aaron Donald is able to do on a football field. And I just wanted to see him get that recognition because time and time again, these defensive guys never get recognized as the MVP. The Heisman, we've had one Heisman winner, and that's Charles Woodson as a defensive player. I wanted to see Donald get in. That's no shade to Cooper Kupp, who made some big time plays, but Aaron Donald was the storyline for me.
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, all great points, and I don't disagree with you at all. I almost wish they could do co-MVPs with Kupp and Donald because Kupp obviously is so instrumental, especially once OBJ goes down. Like, he was the only skill player that could do anything on offense for Matthew Stafford. The running game could do nothing. You had Ben Skowronek dropping passes, leading to interceptions. It was literally the Cooper Kupp show. But yeah, Aaron Donald on defense, what he did. Von Miller, got 2 sacks as well. But it's crazy, Will, how this will probably put in like a stake in your heart, but how the game against San Francisco ended the exact same way with Aaron Donald blowing up the play and not sacking, but taking down Garoppolo, who had to just heave it up. And that went in for an interception to Travon Howard. This one falls harmlessly, but the game's over. So it was the perfect exclamation point for Donald in that.
Yeah, and if you got to lose to somebody, you hope it's the best. I have no doubt in my mind that Aaron Donald is the best at what he does. So, if you're going to lose to somebody, it's got to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and that's exactly what he is. So,
yeah, absolutely. So, quick break here to tell you that this podcast today is sponsored by our friends at BetterHelp Online Therapy. You can check them out at betterhelp.com/LA football. Right now it's a crazy world we live in, crazy time. And there's no better time to, focus on yourself and get help. The best way to think about therapy is through a bunch of analogies. We get our cars tuned up to prevent bigger issues down the road. Sure, you saw that one coming. Get annual checkups to go to the gym, to maintain physical wellness, prevent injury, disease. We do chores regularly, at least my kids are gonna, to avoid a giant mess of the house, roaches, bugs, etc. Well, therapy is like all these. It's routine maintenance for your mental and emotional wellness to prevent bigger issues down the road. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. So you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Why invest in everything else and not your own mind? This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Believe in LA Football listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/LA football. Once again, that's betterhelp.com/LA football. Check them out. Focus on yourself. It's a time to get right in your mind. BetterHelp.com/LA football. Now back to the show. Jamal, let's go to you. I always appreciate about you because you've said, you live in LA, you're an LA fan through and through. You are a Rams fan, going for the Rams, but you were one of the few on the panel that was more criticizing the Rams, and not in anything wrong. You weren't making anything up. I think it was all truthful. But the Rams in the end were more clutch than the Bengals in this game. So let me get your thoughts on how it came down, because we were watching the game together and it kind of was playing exactly how you were envisioning it, with Burrow getting the ball back, and luckily with Aaron Donald being more clutch, was able to finish it. But what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, Ryan, I mean, more power to the Rams. I was, again, I questioned the Rams clutch gene, in particular that of Matt Stafford, and even though he threw the 2 interceptions, he made enough throws in the fourth quarter to pull through. I think what's so great is that, Ryan alluded to just sort of the organic way that the Rams have built their team over the years, through the draft, through homegrown talent. And I think that organic way enables you to be a playoff team and to be in contention. But teams don't win championships, superstars do. And I think what I loved about this game is that push comes to shove in the fourth quarter, it was the 2-man show of Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald. And, when you look at how that second half played out, it actually sort of reminded me a lot of a great October baseball game, one of those scoreless games where the next hit, on any play, the game could break. Because if you really look at that second half, first play out of the half, Burrow hit Higgins on that deep touchdown. The first play of the ensuing Rams drive is the pick. The Bengals don't really do anything, though. It's 20-13. The Rams kind of eke their way to a field goal, and then we saw 7 consecutive punts. Nobody could do anything on either side. Nothing was really happening in the game until that final drive. And 4th and 1, Kupp on that end around, that the wide receiver jet sweep, finding a way to get that first down, and just coming up with clutch catch after clutch catch on that drive. 4 catches on that drive, and including that run on 4th down. He came up huge. And then Donald, 7 sacks of Burrow in the second half alone. The defensive line really established dominance. But I think more so, Ryan, than, being more clutch, the Rams won the game by a half a second, because what people don't realize is even on that 4th and 1 play, Jamar Chase totally burned Jalen Ramsey. Jamar Chase was wide open at the 10-yard line. And if Aaron Donald is not Superman Aaron Donald, and even comes to Burrow maybe 0.7 of a second later, Burrow probably lobs that up to Chase, and we're having a very different conversation here. The Bengals winning the Super Bowl. And so that is how close this game was, and more power to Aaron Donald for being the best defensive player in the modern era of the NFL since LT. And so I think it was a great game. I was wrong about the fourth quarter, but I wasn't wrong by much. And I think that the Rams did an outstanding job. I'm really happy for the city of LA. But that game was very, very close.
Yeah. And Ryan, what, I guess, surprised you the most? Because I think we all thought the Bengals deserved to be there, but let's be real. I mean, we didn't really talk about this that much, guys, this week. But even the and I'm not taking anything away from them, because they deserve to be there. They beat these teams. But even going into the game, I don't think any of us would really argue that, well, the Chiefs are probably overall a better team. Well, the Bills are probably overall a better team. Well, even the Titans may be overall a better team. Now, the Bengals had to do their thing and beat 2 of those teams to get there. But they proved yesterday that they absolutely deserve to be there, because they were in it the entire game. They led for some of the game. Ryan, what surprised you about how they were able to do it, and how they were able to not just stay within the game, but like Jamal said, a half a second away from potentially winning it?
I mean, I'm surprised they didn't hammer on that run more often, start spamming that more, because that was working in the first half for them. They didn't necessarily abandon it, but it was working for them. That was opening up those plays for Chase downfield. Yeah, I mean, that's really the only thing that was shocking to me. I mean, the the two injuries that took place, I think played such a huge role. I didn't foresee that to happen. I mean, the pain on Burrow's face as he was tackled, I didn't know who his backup was until seconds after that happened. The old and Odell, I mean, that happens a couple weeks earlier. This is a very different postseason for the Rams, and those things are always shocking and just terrible to see because you never want to see anybody get hurt. But the Bengals ran successive plays after that, running the ball, and the Rams saw that coming after Burrow was hurt, and they shut down that drive. And I think that was a huge drive that changed where that game was heading.
Yeah. Will, anything surprise you about this, or just in the way Cincinnati played, or in the way the Rams played?
Yeah, there's one outlying thing that really stood out to me, and not let alone just this game. It was the entire postseason. Jalen Ramsey was horrible this playoffs. Let's be real right now.
Yeah.
His PFF grade was 45. That was the lowest in the playoffs, period. Like, he had given up, when targeted yesterday, 4 catches for 145 yards and a touchdown. And like Jamal said, had Burrow had a fraction of a second more going to Chase on the outside, we could be talking about maybe a 50-yard touchdown for the win to Jamar Chase, as no one was on that outside. He got burned by Mike Evans. Evans is a physical receiver, a guy that's going to go over the top and make plays. He torched him in like a track race. And that was just kind of entertaining to me just to see that, because I had never seen Ramsey be burned like that, period. This is a question that I think needs to be addressed. I don't know if I'm completely there yet, but have we seen the best of Jalen Ramsey? Because when the lights shone the brightest this year, he did not come to play.
He's a guy that he puts a lot of pressure on himself, and he wants to show up. And I think he was just kind of ball hawking, and when he should have been maybe trying to keep pace with these guys rather than trying to make an interception.
Yeah, go ahead, Will.
Oh, go for it, Ryan.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Just the other, fact that I thought was insane, and the only real determining factor for why I took the Rams over the Bengals, I thought it was two very evenly matched teams. It was the offensive line being horrible for the Bengals, the defensive line, being pretty special for the Rams. The craziest stat that I saw from Sunday, the pressure rate the Rams were able to generate against Joe Burrow was 41.5%. To put that into comparison, the leader in the NFL this year was the New England Patriots. It was 30.8% per game. They were over 10% higher than the highest team in the league. It was night and day. And the Bengals, they let Burrow get sacked 51 times. Burrow was sacked 19 times in the playoffs this year. That is an NFL record. So it really came down to the prediction where, the offensive line is bad, the defensive line is great. That's why I'm picking the Rams. So it really played out that way. But I was shocked at just how dominant the Rams were on the defensive side.
Yeah.
And that's incredible because it didn't seem like they were getting home much in the first half. I mean, that was I made the comment to Ryan during halftime. I was like, they're not getting much pressure on him. And they were forcing him to throw the ball, but they weren't getting the tackles for loss, the sacks, those particular versions of that, of the pressure, and yeah. I think the previous record most sacks for a quarterback was 13. So
it blew it out. And yeah. You guys too, man. Like, you guys at Super Bowl week were telling me about Ernest Jones. It was a guy I was not really paying attention to. He had a big game, a sack, 2 tackles for a loss. So shout out to both Ryans for kind of enlightening me on the talent that Ernest Jones had, to complement the 2 sacks of Von Miller, the 2 sacks of, Aaron Donald. They just came to play and dominated at a level I don't think I've ever seen a defensive line dominate in a Super Bowl matchup.
I also function a little bit, guys, of the game getting a little bit conservative in the second half. I think both coaches, I think Taylor in particular was starting to realize that the Rams looked really compromised with OBJ out and Kupp really being the only playmaker and Cam Akers not being able to muster up anything in the run game. And so I think Zach Taylor got a little conservative in the second half of saying, hey, we just don't want to have the big pick or the big mistake to give the Rams, a cheap field to punch this in. Let's have them earn it, because there was a period, again, 7 straight punts in that game, most of the second half, where it looked like 20 points might win the game. If we fast forward to the first quarter, Zach Taylor going for it on 4th and 1 at the Rams, 48-yard line, and not getting that. That set up the first Rams touchdown, because they had a short field. You sort of gift wrap that first touchdown. You take that one away, the Rams really were only able to muster up 9 points for the majority of the game. And so obviously the defensive line was so dominant. Donald was sublime, transcendent, historic, you name it. I don't think there's an adjective in the English language that can describe just how great he was. But there was also a little bit of Zach Taylor getting conservative, I saw.
And Jamal, how much do you think, whether this was play call or just Joe Burrow decision-making, but like kind of Ryan alluded to, that first half, Burrow was getting the ball out under 2 seconds. I think that was part of the reason why the defensive line was taken out of the game, is they were getting the ball out so quick and they were having really fun play designs to get it out. And then the second half is almost like, let's do these 5-step drops and see if we can start spreading it out. Like sometimes these coaches just overcoach. Like what happened?
It's a great point. I actually think perhaps the worst thing that could have happened to the Bengals was the 75-yard touchdown on the first play. Because you're sort of, in Vegas, you're sort of a gambler and you're sort of under the illusion now that you're hot. And I think that they were kind of chasing that next big play a little bit too much when they saw how easy they got that 75-yarder. I actually think if they didn't get the quick hit early in the third, they would have kind of stuck with the game plan that was working and potentially had a little bit more success. But beyond that, I think overall, Taylor coached a pretty decent game. Where I think things really sort of fell apart a little bit for him was on that last drive. They got that quick out to Chase. He ran it up for about 22 yards. They got that, inside hit to Higgins, 2nd and 1. And then the play calling was very puzzling to me, because they only ran the ball one more time out of 3 plays. And so to me, if you're going to throw it on 2nd and 1 in that situation, when you've already crossed midfield, you got the best kicker in the game, you only need 3. You basically need about 15 yards at this stage in the game, plenty of time. Why aren't you running the ball for that first down? And the fact that they only relied on, when you throw it on 2nd and 1, you're basically saying, here's our shot, and now we're going to run it twice to get the first down. To go run, throw was just bizarre there. And if I was Zach Taylor, that's the thing that would be keeping me up at night in the offseason. Because if you can imagine, if the Bengals got that first down, even on the Rams 47 with about 45 seconds to go, the whole playbook is still open. You can still do short throws. You can still do the things. I thought that was kind of a critical mistake for Taylor. Other than that, we can nitpick, but that was the big mistake for me.
Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, and the confusing thing for me, too, was the only running back in this game that was really able to make some plays was Mixon. Yeah. And that 3rd and 4th and 1, he wasn't even on the field for both of those plays. Right. That was just a really dumb move on their part, in my opinion, because P. Ryan is clearly a fraction of the back that Mixon is when Mixon is rolling. And you got to feed the hot hand, especially in those critical moments. And they totally diverted from that. I think that was a critical mistake on Taylor and the offense.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. And for those that don't know, obviously it falls on the head coach. But the position coaches are in charge of player substitution. So whoever the running back coach is who did not put Mixon out there, if I'm Zach Taylor after the game, you're obviously not going to blame it on him, but you're saying, dude, we couldn't waste a timeout with this. What are you doing not getting my star back out there for these big plays? Because, I totally agree that was interesting. And then you see the push, and Greg Gaines isn't getting any love, but Greg Gaines was in the other side, and Aaron Donald with the one arm stopping him. I mean, that was the play. The sack obviously ended it, or again, it wasn't a sack, but the sack throwaway. But that was the play of the game right there, right? That 3rd and 1. I mean, that was the MVP play, I think, minus the touchdown.
Because that forced Taylor to say, I got to throw it on 4th down. That was such a dominant one-arm play by Donald that Taylor lost confidence in the ability to even run the ball, even do a quarterback sneak, for God's sakes, on 4th and 1. And that's why Aaron Donald is the real AD in LA.
Yeah, there he is. I totally agree. Totally agree. And now he has the ring to back it up. So, Ryan, last thing about the Bengals, and we'll talk just strictly Rams, and then get it with some fun records that were broken, and then wrap it up. Thank you, fellas, for joining me. Got Jamal, Will, and Ryan. But Joe Burrow, how was your overall thoughts on his play? Because Joe Burrow is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in this league for years and years and years. We saw what I think looked so good was, we talked about it with Callie a lot, the moxie. He has that it factor that everyone talks about. You can see it. But statistically speaking, Joe Mixon had the first touchdown pass, and the second 75-yarder, let's be honest, was an offensive pass interference with a pretty blatant face mask on Jalen Ramsey from Jamar Chase. So without that, he could have gone over with no touchdowns and just over 200 yards. But how did you think overall he played, Ryan?
I mean, he's in his second year coming off of a very bad injury. You know, you look at some of these guys coming into the league, and you're just looking at them, and then you're looking, they're going to get better. They're going to get more experience, and especially at the quarterback position, that experience is so necessary, and it showed. That he didn't have that necessary experience to get the job done. Now, you can't blame him entirely. They drafted Jamar Chase, which is a brilliant pick. He's looking like a generational kind of talent at this point, but that offensive line is awful, and they got to figure out how to protect them.
Yeah, I don't think if they add 5 new offensive linemen, they're doing something wrong in this offseason. Jamal, thoughts on Burrow before we move on? I know he's kind of your guy, even though he's not in LA.
Ryan, the one thing I will say is that if you statistically look between Stafford and Burrow, they basically had the same stats yard-wise, right? I mean, it was 283 for Stafford, 263 for Burrow. Burrow's completion percentage was a little bit higher than Stafford's as well. And I think the most impressive thing about Burrow, I understand kind of the lack of the touchdown passes, but to face that onslaught of a pass rush and not force a ball and throw an interception, to me, is so impressive about this kid in his second year and why he's got star power written all over him. Matt Stafford, for all the good throws that he made in the fourth quarter with a relatively clean pocket, he still had 2 picks. And so at the end of the day, Stafford was still kind of Stafford. He sort of overcame his inherent Staffordness just enough to get the Rams over the hump. But the fact that Burrow, under that duress, didn't come close to throwing an interception just tells me what a star he is, and just his demeanor during the game, after the game. I really think I heard this the other day that maybe, Burrow is potentially the heir apparent here to Brady, and Mahomes is the heir apparent to Rodgers, and we might have kind of the Brady-Rodgers rivalry into this next decade in the form of those 2 young studs. But the future is very bright for Joe Shiesty.
Yeah, well, you didn't even bring up the other LA quarterback in Justin Herbert. Like, we got a very bright future. Go ahead, Ryan.
And one thing I forgot to mention is where he separates himself from Brady for me is he is super elusive. He can sneak out of stuff. Brady would turtle. Maybe that's not more recency bias than anything else, but he can get out of the pocket. But Joe Burrow's future is hard in the AFC. I mean, if you're looking at Herbert and you're looking at all these other guys, Mahomes, all these guys in the AFC, it's a tough road. I mean, he's going to have a great career, but getting back to this big game, it's going to rely on a lot on the Bengals to make good decisions, which they've made a few good, but more bad.
Yeah, and you guys both mentioned it, but 26 total pressures for 7 sacks, hard to win, and I don't care how good the offensive line is, you're going up against a tough unit, but that's where that's how the Buccaneers beat the Chiefs the year before, right? Was an unbelievable onslaught of pressure on Mahomes. Will, final thoughts on Burrow?
Yeah, I would give him a B+. I thought he did, a very good job given the circumstance. I mean, you said 26 pressures. I mean, my God, that is a lot. And I looked this up on PFF earlier. The passer rating for a quarterback when pressured and not pressured. So when they are not pressured, it's about a 96. When they are pressured, it's about a 68. A 68 passer rating. I think we can all agree that's horrible. That's not great. My thing with Burrow is I just saw everything I needed to see from him. I think maybe every other quarterback outside of maybe your Lamar Jackson or a dual threat quarterback on that 4th and 1 was not going to escape Aaron Donald. Let's just be honest. Aaron Donald came through, and you have to have that 4.5, 4.4 speed to kind of kick it to the outside. No turnovers. And the thing that I saw from him and this whole playoff run, this whole season, is he hasn't complained about his offensive line once. And I think that is very telling. In the day, we have Kyler Murray, this story coming out where he's constantly pointing the fingers at somebody else if it's not his fault. Jamal asked this question earlier this week. He's got the it factor, man. And, I know the AFC is tough, but if I'm a betting man right now, I think we're going to see him back in a Super Bowl because the toughness, the ability to make plays, he may have sprained his knee for all we know. I mean, that looked like an incredible, painful play. Yeah. Came back out there and was looking, just as tough as he normally is. I love the kid, and I'm excited to see his future. And, Joe Burrow gets a B+ for me. I thought he did a respectable job given that people were in his face on any given play.
Yeah, the dude is definitely special. It's going to be fun to watch for all these years. And you mentioned the, Burrow-Mahomes rivalry, but there's a pretty big Burrow-Herbert rivalry because, taking 1 and 6 in the same draft, Chargers and Bengals fans always are going at each other. And so that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And obviously the Chargers were, seconds away from being in this playoff, and it could have come down to a matchup with the Bengals at some point. So that's going to be real fun to watch for a lot of years as we have a good one on the other side of LA.
But divisional in the AFC is set up for years to come to be delicious. I mean, when you talk about Allen, Herbert, Burrow, and Mahomes, holy cow, a Final Four in the AFC for years to come. That's going to be incredible.
Bloodbath,
yeah, it's unreal. Why would any NFC quarterback want to go to the AFC? I don't understand that. I don't understand. But Will, let's keep it back with you. Got to talk about Matthew Stafford. This is the Rams podcast. Got to give him some love. Did he elevate his legacy? Obviously, he elevated a little bit with the win, but do you think we now can say Matthew Stafford is among one of the greats? I'm not saying top 3, but among one of the great quarterbacks of all time now with the stats. He'll play probably another 5 to 6 years. We talked about all week, and you add on a 4-3 playoff record with a Super Bowl win now. How does he stand with you?
That's a really interesting question. I have researched this, through Twitter and things like that today and stats, and you just look at the stats. He is 5 yards away from becoming the 12th player in history with 50,000 yards passing. I mean, that is pretty impressive. But Richard Sherman brought up a very valid case, today on Twitter. I don't know if you guys saw that tweet. He goes, he's made 1 Pro Bowl, no MVPs, no All-Pro selections. There's got to be some type of tangible evidence for him to maybe elevate that. Didn't get the Super Bowl MVP, which I think could have helped him out. One of the picks was on Skoranek. Let's be honest. I think LA is going to adopt the new term, you pulled a Skoranek or something like that, because dating back to the 49ers game when he was wide open, dropped the pick. I mean, that guy has had a miserable couple of weeks there, Mr. Skoranek. But, Stafford, he has a 2-to-1 career touchdown interception ratio. Guys, I want you to guess how many touchdowns he has. 250.
Oh, he's over 300. He broke 300 against the Lions.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So he's at 323 touchdown passes to 161 interceptions. That's a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is pretty impressive given he's playing for some terrible Detroit teams. I think this helps the case. I don't know if I'm completely there yet, but given the way the quarterbacks have kind of, been able to play later in their careers, I think there's a real chance that Stafford can build upon this and get into the Hall of Fame, especially if this Rams team is competitive for the next 2 to 3 years with let's face it, if Rodgers leaves the NFC, that's going to be wide open for the next foreseeable future. So I'm not guaranteeing he's going to be in the Hall today, but I do think there's a realistic chance he does make it.
Just talking Pro Bowl, because the Pro Bowl, it's always so like the fact this year that Kyler Murray was a Pro Bowler and not Matthew Stafford, who finished 3rd in yards, 2nd in touchdowns, led his team to the playoffs, a division win. Like, that's mind blowing to me. Like, so I hate when I get it that we have to have tangible things in order to build people's resumes. But that is such a tall tale proof. Like, do Pro Bowls really matter that much when it comes down to it? Jamal, I'll throw it to you. What's your thought on Stafford's legacy at this point?
Yeah, Ryan, I think he's sort of the modern NFL's version of Warren Moon. and I think that, when you look at Warren Moon of the 80s and 90s, great stats, great numbers. His teams were in the playoffs kind of every year. And incredible body of work. But when you think of top 10, top 20, top 25 quarterbacks, his name rarely gets mentioned. And I think obviously the Super Bowl victory for Stafford will elevate him over the likes of the Warren Moons and so forth. But I think I think his natural ceiling is probably top 30. I think it's hard for me to kind of see him above that. Unbelievable mechanics, great arm. The stats are there, but we're also in sort of the equivalent of the steroid era of passing yards in the NFL, where you have to sort of, look at it from a relative perspective. Certainly winning the Super Bowl helps a great deal. But when you look back on this Super Bowl, you're going to think of Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford kind of making a few throws when he had to. So I think for him, I think this sort of solidifies him as a potential Hall of Fame quarterback. I think if he kind of finishes out his career injury-free, this gets him over the hump to Hall of Fame. But I don't have him in that, top 15, top 20 class. I think if he can follow this up and win a second Super Bowl and maybe have a Super Bowl MVP, then we're having a whole different conversation of him, eking up top 20, even potentially top 15, depending on how that goes.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting. I mean, the quarterback debate is a silly one, but it's fun. Ryan, your thoughts on Stafford and where he sits now among the greats?
So, I mean, speaking of tangibles, we got yards, we got touchdowns, we can total those up. He's up there. I mean, he's among some of the greats. You look at a guy like Jim Kelly, not necessarily high production, no Super Bowls. He went to 4 straight, though. I mean, that's an interesting conversation. You think about a guy like Matt Ryan, who's statistically fantastic, made it to 1 Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan was able to throw that one away for him, though. Wink.
Nice. We'll take those jabs all day on the LA Football Show.
But no, I mean, it's interesting because it is the first year that we've seen him be a successful quarterback, really, in our short memories. He has been successful, but never on one of these teams that can get him into that Super Bowl. So I guess it's hard because I look at a guy like Cooper Kupp as kind of a good analogy, because we've seen Cooper Kupp be a really good wide receiver. This year we saw him to be a really great wide receiver. So the question is, as Jamal put it, is like, can you repeat? Can you do that again? Can he go deep into the playoffs, win a few more playoff games? And I think that's, 1-2 more seasons, and we see him continue to do this with good coaching and a smart franchise around him. And then the conversation instantly changes because we're no longer thinking about Matt Ryan or Jim Kelly, even though those are fantastic quarterbacks. Yeah. But because you're looking at the stat sheet or you're going through Wikipedia and you're going like, the Bills lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. Who was that guy? But that guy was good. That guy was really good.
Ryan, what's interesting to me is, and to your point, I don't think we think of Jim Kelly and Matt Ryan necessarily as top 20 quarterbacks. They're probably in that top 30 to 40 range. To me, the interesting debate right now with Stafford is, historically, is it Stafford or Eli Manning? Where Stafford has all the numbers. Yeah. And he's got kind of the 1 ring. Eli's got the 2 rings, the 2 Super Bowl MVPs. But what's interesting about Eli is he hasn't won another playoff game outside of those 2 Super Bowl runs. Stafford hasn't won a playoff game outside of, basically outside of this run. Stafford has the numbers, but Eli's got the Super Bowl MVPs. I think that's more kind of the area of debate, the neighborhood of debate of where Stafford is. I think to think of him as, even though he's got those stats, to think of him as a top 20 or top 15 quarterback is very premature. I think he's more in kind of that Eli Manning neighborhood. And again, Eli Manning is going to be a Hall of Famer. So by that regard, Stafford should be a Hall of Famer. But I think that's kind of more of a compelling debate than any of those top 15 guys.
Yeah, go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I think one of the determining factors for me too with Stafford is go ask any Lions fan how they feel about Matt Stafford. they give that guy all the benefit of the doubt. And let's be honest, there is probably no other franchise that's as bad as the Detroit Lions in football. Like when he was drafted, he inherited the 0-16, the infamous 0-16 team. Like you could not come into a worse situation than that. So I think given the talent that has been surrounded by him and, arguably the Minnesota Timberwolves, so to speak, franchise of the NFL, given you look at the numbers, it's pretty impressive. Those offensive lines were brutal for him. He was, leading the league in quarterback hits and, taking sacks, multiple times in Detroit. And we just talked about the, advanced stats when it came down to when a quarterback's pressured or when he's not. So I think it would be really interesting to have this conversation if Stafford just went to a mediocre team as opposed to the worst team in football. And, to use a NBA comparison, Andrew Wiggins was on, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and he was a struggling player. He had some numbers, but it was like the teams were always bad. No one really cared.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think he's an all-star starter? I don't believe that, but you can see how much better he is in a better system and how bad Minnesota's system was for him there. And I think it's very similar to Stafford. So, boy, if he was able to go to just, a Minnesota Vikings or, even like some of those early Bears teams in his careers that had like a great defense to back it up, I think we could be talking about Stafford as, a lot closer to being a guarantee as a Hall of Famer as opposed to starting in Detroit.
I think Ryan, the jury's still out, truthfully, because I think we give him a little bit too much credit for the Detroit years, and we're probably not going to give him enough credit for this Rams run, right? And so the truth lies somewhere in between. At the end of the day, look, I think we kind of want to see how his Rams career plays out because truth be told, he has the offensive player of the year in the NFL. And he has the defensive player of the year in the NFL. I don't care who the award went to this year. Aaron Donald is the defensive player of the year every year. Yeah. And so he's literally got the two best players on those sides of the ball on his team. Now, you can argue he helped Kupp sort of get elevated to that status. But I think we need to see a little bit more in terms of his Rams tenure to actually calibrate what really was going on in Detroit. Because, look, at the end of the day, if Stafford was as great as we're sort of debating him to potentially be, why couldn't he take the Lions on a run the way Burrow took the Bengals on a run? Look, when you talk about losing franchises, the Bengals are just as bad as the Lions. Yes, Joe Burrow had Jamar Chase. Matthew Stafford had a guy named, Megatron Calvin Johnson. And so why couldn't he sort of make that run? Granted, we talk about the Tannehill interception, the Cinderella run, but in 12 years, you're telling me you couldn't have one Cinderella run with Detroit, whereas this kid Burrow in year 2 could do it. So I think the jury's still out on Stafford, truth be told. I think we need more evidence.
Yeah, and that's totally a fair point. And I'll go to you in just a second. I think that, and this is just me kind of playing devil's advocate, Jamal, I think the argument would lie in the outside of, Calvin Johnson, no 100-yard rushers. What he had 2 in his entire career. In his 1,000-yard rusher, but no 100-yard game.
Too.
Yeah, and and Joe Burrow did have a guy named Joe Mixon who was a top pick. He had T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, so depth there at receiver. CJ Uzama had a great season as tight end. So I'm not at all downplaying with Joe Burrow. I think just that's the devil advocate argument for Stafford. But again, I think he does get a little bit, like you were saying, Jamal, not enough credit made for this run and probably too much victim, if you will. We're in a culture of victimhood now, and it's almost like we're playing that up. But Will, go ahead.
That's what makes, this is as tough of an argument as I've heard, because you went back to me the first play. I was playing devil's advocate, just saying maybe we should give him some credit for Detroit. Maybe that was a tough situation, tougher than most. But, he did have Megatron, who, for my money, was the most unguardable wide receiver in the history of football. This is a 6'6" wide receiver, 4'3". He had the receiving record in 16 games. Like, this guy is a monster receiver. The run game wasn't there. It's just such a perplexing argument. And I think we just got to let this thing play out because, Stafford didn't have all the breaks, but he did have some. And then he comes to the Rams, And you could see that, the tangible difference. They won the Super Bowl with him there at the helm. Like Jared Goff was never going to achieve that no matter how close he came against New England. I just never had faith in him. So this is like one of the toughest arguments right now in football, period. So it's going to be fun to watch this thing play out.
Yeah, exactly. And, you look at his playoff losses because he was 0-3 before this. And, they had a close one against Dallas in 2014. And other than that, a couple blowout losses, the other two.
He lost to the Saints and the Seahawks, like Russell Wilson and Breeze. And that was like the Seahawks, like when they were on their run with the, Legion of Boom. And that the time he lost to the Saints was like a year removed from them winning the Super Bowl. So, I mean, he was 0-3, but he lost to two, very comparable teams that the NFC remembers fondly over the last decade plus. So, I mean, it wasn't like he was blowing like games to like, teams they should have beaten.
Yeah, that was the Super Bowl winning.
Patricia was his head coach too. So.
Yeah. Yeah. He had 3 different head coaches?
Yeah.
Jim Schwartz, I think, was one. Yeah, Jim Schwartz. Jim Caldwell was a good one. I don't know why they fired him. And then Matt Patricia was just absolutely terrible. So the comparison I always, and again, it's not comparing Stafford to him, but when you look at, because we have this conversation, this will be the last thing on this, then we'll move on. We have this fun, and it's a fun conversation anyway when you look at quarterbacks and situationally, and like, are they a product of their situation, their environment, or are they really elevating? And it's hard to ever truly know. I mean, I think for me, when I look at someone that truly elevated, and there's other quarterbacks out there, but when you look at what John Elway did with those 80s and early 90s Broncos team to go to 3 Super Bowls, that is a quarterback that's top 5 because of those years. And that's where Stafford, I don't think, can be in that top 5 because of that. Now, that being said, like we're all been saying, let it play out. He can absolutely, I think, play in that top 15. If he goes to another one or wins another one or goes to 2, winning 1, or even just has some good playoff runs here in the last, 4 to 6 years of his career, I think he can absolutely play in that top 15. But I don't think he'll ever be able to be in that top 5 conversation for me, just because a guy like John Elway, among others, who literally brought teams that no one can name another player on that team, and they went to 3 Super Bowls. Granted, got smoked in them, but they were there on the AFC side and had to go up against some pretty damn good, Niners, Cowboys, and Washington teams. So
last point I'll make too is if you were to pull a John Elway or a Eli Manning, where draft day comes and you want no part of that franchise, you want to be traded, I think we can all agree, and this is me just playing devil's advocate, that if the Lions are at the top of the board, that might be your first selection, just in terms of organizational dysfunction.
Yeah,
that might be the number 1 selection for me if I was going to opt out of a team. So that's what he was dealing with. Just to play devil's advocate on that.
I love Brad Holmes. So
to be a fan of football, just in general, it's great to see a talented guy get to play on a talented roster. We've lost some really great quarterbacks to bad franchises, good players to bad franchises. So it's nice to have a little bit redemption for Stafford, regardless of where he ends up in the top tiers of quarterbacks or not.
Yeah, so fun to watch the rest of his career. I think he has 1 year left on his deal because this last year is voidable based on that contract. And then I would assume the Rams will re-up his contract this offseason, because then they can move some money around to give them some more cap space and see if they can make a few runs of this, because I think they're built to still have 3 to 5 years to be a top team. And then we'll see what happens after that, how many more picks they trade or whatnot. But I think a lot of people say all in this year, but I think they're built to actually be very, very competitive. And especially if Rodgers leaves the NFC or retires soon, to be the cream of the crop in the NFC for, like I said, 3 to 5 years. So go ahead, Jamal. You look like you want to jump in there.
No, I just with one caveat, Ryan. There's the R word for Mr. Donald, and Mr. Donald's got to come back. If Mr. Donald decides to hang it up, the Rams are going to be fighting for playoff spots, not for titles. So the big asterisk there. Yeah,
no, that's huge. That's huge. They drafted. I talked to Eric Henderson, their defensive line coach, and they drafted Bobby Brown, who didn't play it all this year because he plays the position of Aaron Donald. And, he had mentioned he was fired up to get this guy, has tons of talent. Their hope is that he can be a semblance of Aaron Donald. No one will ever be Aaron Donald, but that was their hope in drafting him. But it'll be huge if Donald does retire. Do you guys I want to get to some fun records that happen, but let's just go around the panel. Do you think Donald will actually retire after this game?
No, I don't think so. I'd like to personally see him run it back. If he's going to retire, try to run it back once more, and then you can hang up going back to back, being the first team to do so since New England. And like we said, NFC is wide open. And, that's coming from a Niners fan. I don't know how Trey Lance is going to be. I can't put them in the conversation until we see more of a sample size with that. Rodgers, who knows what's going to happen with Green Bay? I think it's real. I think the smoke is real that Denver's there. Hackett was clearly the hire for the Broncos because they're trying to lure a guy like Rodgers there. I think if the Rams can bring back Aaron Donald, who is the most dominant player in his position, compared to the next closest guy I've seen probably since like the likes of Barry Sanders and Lawrence Taylor. I think if he walks away early, that changes the whole thing. But I'd like to see Aaron Donald come back because that guy is just so much fun to watch play football.
Yeah. Ryan?
I love football. He's a great football player. I want him back. Aaron Donald can do whatever he wants to do. He's a king among peasants.
Among peasants.
And I think it would be a lot. I remember when Barry Sanders retired. It was too soon, and it's a shame if he does, but I'm thinking about today. I'm happy for LA. I'm happy for Aaron Donald. I don't know.
Totally. Jamal, you think he hangs him up?
Well, first of all, Ryan, I loved your answer, man. So much. That was just sort of dripping swag and just so direct. It reminded me it's like Rasheed Wallace, man, giving an interview there. Both teams played hard right there. Those are the vibes I was getting from that answer. That was fantastic. Ryan, I think it's closer than we think. I don't know, but I think it's a decision he's going to think long and hard. He is 31. He's going to turn 31 in about 60 days here. And if you look at generationally, the two players maybe that he's going to be most often compared to, obviously kind of slightly different positions, but just in terms of defensive dominance, if you look at kind of J.J. Watt and Lawrence Taylor, this was right about the age. And in Watt's case, I mean, it was really, he became very injury prone at 28, 29. Same thing with Lawrence Taylor when, Parcells left and Belichick didn't get that Giants job. His career kind of flattened out right around in his late 20s. And then the injuries start piling up. And so he's 31. He's Superman. He's done everything there needs to be done. We're always going to remember him as that dominant performance in that last play. What a better way to go out. We're talking about legacy with Stafford and with quarterbacks. I think the multiple rings really matters, right, in the legacy conversation. For a D tackle, if Donald goes to the playoffs even again, I don't think his legacy changes in any way, shape, or form. So I'm not sure the run it back is as significant to him. As a football fan, as an LA fan, as a Rams fan, I'd love for him to come back, but I think it's going to be close. And I'm going to lean 51-49 retirement.
Oh, wow. Oh. Yeah. The difference with him and Lawrence Taylor is, Aaron Donald's not doing blow on the bus before games. So that helps his injury.
That helps. Yeah, that helps.
That helps you stay a little healthier when you're clean in that regard. But I think for me and I'm kind of with, all of you guys, that he has 3 kids now, just had a brand new baby. And there's something now, which I think is great. A lot of these players in general, and just society in general, I think is now putting a bigger emphasis on, being a father and being a dad. And we've, in the past, that was kind of a secondary thing, a judiciary thing. And you just, wait till retirement. And now I think with McVay coming out and saying that he wants to have a family, and I think Aaron Donald really wants to be a present father, that's going to weigh on him. And he has accomplished everything that he needs to be. I mean, he will go down as him in LT 1A, 1B, no matter when he retires, if it's now or, 5 years from now. So I think that'll weigh on him. I think, though, if it's me, I would go. I think he still gives it till at least the end of his contract because, guys, one thing I didn't mention, if he retires today, he's walking away from $51 million. So obviously we've had this conversation all week. When you've made this much money, how much different is this much money? I think, Jamal, you had this conversation with McVay, whether he stays coaching or going into the booth, like how much more money is beneficial for enjoyment of life. But 51 million to just walk away for another 2-3 years playing, I think that might be hard to do for him. So I think he at least finishes out this contract, but we'll see. Hey guys, quickly wanted to ask the question, what's more important than peace of mind? I'll tell you, nothing. And that's what NordVPN is here for, to give you peace of mind while you're online. We all live online nowadays. And with all of the threats that you face today on the internet, it is more important than ever to be sure that you have the best VPN you can get. NordVPN is the world's best VPN service, offering the fastest connectivity, the most servers, and next-gen encryption to make sure that everything you do online stays secure. Plus, you can use NordVPN on all your computers and devices, no matter the operating system. With NordVPN's unlimited bandwidth, you never have to worry about a slow connection either, and plans start at under $4 per month. So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/believe or use the code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV to get up to 70. That's right, 70% off your NordVPN plans, plus one additional month for free. It's also risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Once again, that's Nord, Nord, vpn.com/believe or use the promo code BLEAV for 70% off. Now back to the show. Last thing, guys, I wanted to get into before we wrap up. We already went longer than I expected, so thank you for joining me. Always appreciate you. 3 records set in this Super Bowl. They're not super exciting ones, but kind of interesting ones. Fewest kickoff returns by both teams. There was only 1 kickoff return for the Rams. The rest were all touchbacks. And the youngest winning head coach in Sean McVay, 36 years, 20 days. Those were the only records set. Some tied records. You had most sacks with 7 was tied again. Fewest fumbles, fewest turnovers, fewest rushing touchdowns. There were 0. So it was a pretty, I feel like, clean game overall with not a lot of crazy records set, but I thought that was interesting. Fewest kick returns, only 1. Thoughts?
Man, I mean, special teams for the Rams have been a horrible thing for them this year. So it probably benefited them that they had to play a little bit less.
Yeah. Matt Gay pumping it through the end zones. That's always good. Well, gentlemen, I think that's it. Any final thoughts on this season? The Super Bowl parade is going to be on Wednesday. So for everyone down here, I'm going to try to be in attendance for sure. I think it's great. We didn't get a parade for the Dodgers or Lakers, but we are getting one for the Rams, and it's going to be a blast. But any final thoughts? Will, I'll toss to you first.
Man, I just think McVay might have a chance at potentially, like, if he is willing to ride that 20-year career plus, he could go down as, one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest of all time, if he continues this trajectory. 55-26 career record-wise. He's now 7-3 in the playoffs, close to a 70% win percentage. And he's got a GM that's willing to go all in on any given time to help him win. So the future is as bright as can be for McVay, and it's only a matter of if he wants it or not. He's only 36 years old, and he has already a Super Bowl to his name, 55 wins, like I just said. But, let's see what happens. He could get burned out really quickly. We talked about this a lot during this week that, coaches, they have a really rough schedule. Not a lot of asleep at night. They're going into the office at 5. They're leaving, 11 at night. So it's just not a healthy lifestyle. But if McVay wants it, the sky's the limit for him. I think that would be the point that I would make after the records that you just shared.
Totally. Ryan, any final thoughts?
It's been such a joy getting to know you guys more. We've talked for 55 minutes and 27 seconds now, and it's flown by. I love talking ball, and I'm glad I can talk it with some of the best guys I've met. And just, I love football, like I said before, and it's really been fun covering the Rams and writing about the Rams. I look forward to more years doing so, hanging out with the LAFB, growing and learning with you guys as well.
Yeah, well, you've done a great job all season, previous seasons, and many more seasons to come. So everyone make sure to stay tuned to that. So appreciate you. Jamal, final thoughts.
For me, Ryan, I'll always remember this season and this Super Bowl for a variety of personal as well as sort of historic reasons. My first year with LA Football Network, and to see the Rams win the Super Bowl in LA for the first time ever after not having football for 23 years, to see the Rams win the Super Bowl. I'll always remember this year as the year of Cooper Kupp, the receiving Triple Crown, Offensive Player of the Year, and Super Bowl MVP. There's only one other wide receiver that's ever done that in the course of his career, and that was Jerry Rice. And Cooper Kupp did all of that in 1 year.
Yeah.
Remember this as the year of McVay, boy wonder finally sort of achieving his destiny of being the genius since he was at the age of 22 and bringing home the title. A good guy. I know I've been rough on him over the last few weeks, but a really good man, a good person, and a heck of a quarterback. Matthew Stafford finally getting his title. OBJ getting the redemption of being really an incredible contributor for the Rams, when, folks don't realize, we had Deshaun Jackson here, early in the season, and that didn't work out. So OBJ bringing it back, Von Miller, the great all-time Bronco, bringing his leadership, and then, of course, the pinnacle with Aaron Donald. And so for me, I'll always remember this title. And now the fact is that Tinseltown is Title Town, the only city in the history of sports to win in baseball, basketball, and football within a 2-year period. So much history at a very special time in society when, we had to deal with things like COVID-19, situations of racism that were going on. And I'll always remember this Rams team as being a piece of the puzzle in LA to bring that joy during very difficult times. And so this will always be a title I'll remember. And there's nothing like the first season, the first time in anything. And so this team will always play a very special role in the ethos of Los Angeles' heart.
Yeah, man. Well said. I don't really even have much to add. I was going to say the last sentiment you said there, I know LA gets a lot of hate as a city around the country. Hate more as like a rivalry that, people just like, if they don't want to be us or whatever that saying is, ain't us, they hate us or something. But LA had it tough with COVID, had some of the highest restrictions as anyone in the country. Obviously cases and deaths were big here, which is, that's more sad. Obviously people losing their life, but tons of businesses closed because of what happened here. And it had it rough. So this was a very good, positive reminder of what life can be like. And I think it came for a resilient bunch of, LA residents, LA fans. And it was a resilient Rams team that I know was built differently, kind of challenged the status quo on how you build an organization, build a championship caliber team. But they fought with resilience and they did things differently and did it their way. And they won their way and they brought a title and they kept the Lombardi Trophy here in LA in our home stadium in SoFi in the first year with fans on an 85-degree day in February, where Jamal's dad was going all in on the Bengals because Jamal's take of them winning. It was glorious. It was glorious. So just a great catalyst way to end it. And now we get to dive into the draft season. We get to dive into free agency because this ship just keeps going. So, gentlemen, could not be more thankful for each of you and for what we did this year, and excited just to keep this thing rolling. So appreciate you all. Thanks for a phenomenal week. Thanks for a great win. And let's keep this thing going. Yeah. Appreciate you.
What a week, guys. Gonna cherish all the memories we made and just the kind of communal aspect that LAFB is, man. What a week.
Yeah. Couldn't be more blessed. So Ryan, Jamal, Will, make sure to check out Will's show, The Bruin Bible. Check out Will and Jamal's show. Draft is in session for all your draft needs this season. Got a lot of big stuff coming. Ryan's going to be doing plenty of Ram stuff all off season, including draft stuff, including free agency stuff. So make sure to check that out. At Will AFB Network on Twitter, at Ryan121, at LAFB Jams with a Z. I'm Ryan Dyrud, LAFB. LAFB Network, we out.